Hello, my dear Scorpio. I know you probably weren't expecting to hear your own thoughts mirrored back to you this early in the video, but if you've clicked here, it's not by accident. Something has been stirring in you, quietly, maybe even painfully, and deep down, you've been hoping for a sign that someone, somewhere, understands what you've been carrying all this time, the weight that you never quite put into words. So let's start here. Gently, you've been moving through your life with a pressure in your chest that never fully goes away. It rises in the quiet hours, when no one else is looking. When the world feels impossibly far and silence turns into something heavy, it's not always sadness, not always fear. Sometimes, it's just an ache you can't quite name. A kind of emotional gravity that makes even joy feel like it has to pass through layers before it reaches your heart. And what hurts the most is that you don't know why. You've looked for reasons. You've asked the questions. Why does everything hit me so deeply? Why can't I just live lightly, like other people seem to? Why does peace always feel like something just out of reach? You've mastered survival. That's never been the problem. You've made it through betrayal, abandonment, endings that tore you in half. You've learned to pick yourself up when no one came to save you. You've rebuilt your inner world so many times you could write a manual on how to resurrect a soul. But even in your strongest moments, there's always been this whisper, a haunting question echoing underneath it all. Was all of this for something? That question is what brought you here today. And I need you to hear this. Not just with your ears, but with your entire being. Before September ends, you will receive the clearest sign of your life. I'm not talking about a coincidence you could dismiss. I'm not talking about a vague feeling you could doubt. I mean a direct, undeniable, soul-level revelation that will shake you in the most beautiful and terrifying way. And no, it won't come wrapped in comfort. It won't show up as a blessing with soft edges. This sign will ask more of you than anything ever has, because it's going to tell you the truth. Not the truth people gave you to keep you safe, not the stories you told yourself to make. The pain makes sense, but the truth about who you are, why you've suffered the way you have, and what you were really sent here to do. This isn't about punishment. It never was. You were born into intensity for a reason. You were never meant to live a life of shallow waters and simple patterns. You've always been the deep diver, the soul who sees what others miss, the heart that feels the full weight of love, grief, rage, ecstasy, all in the same breath. And I know sometimes that intensity has felt like a curse, like something you've had to hide or tone down just to function. But what if that very intensity was never your problem? What if it's been your compass all along, and the only reason it's caused so much suffering is because no one ever taught you how to use it, Scorpio? You've been carrying a sacred weight, and the sign that's coming will show you why. It will put into perspective the years you spent questioning yourself, the nights you cried alone, the relationships that shattered you, the opportunities you self-sabotaged because part of you still believed you weren't ready. And maybe you weren't ready. Until now. Because something is shifting. You've probably felt it already, that strange restlessness in your spirit, in the feeling that something's coming, but you can't quite name it. You've been waking up in the middle of the night for no reason. You've been having conversations that feel loaded with meaning. You've been drawn to certain songs, phrases, or memories that seem to be calling something up from deep inside you. That's not your imagination. That's alignment. And here's what most people don't realize about destiny. It doesn't always arrive wrapped in beauty. Sometimes it shows up as discomfort, as heartbreak, as a decision you don't feel ready to make. But underneath that resistance is the most important realization of your life. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to be transformed, again and again. Until what's left is so real, so luminous, so utterly true, that it becomes impossible to keep living any other way. You've tried to live like others. You've tried to tone yourself down to be lighter, easier, less complicated, less intense. But all it's done is make you feel more alone because your soul knows the truth and it's tired of waiting for your permission to live it. The sign that's coming, it will not ask for permission. It will arrive, and it will show you everything you've been too afraid to face. It will point to your wounds, not to shame you, but to liberate you. It will take the most painful chapters of your life and reveal the pattern behind them, not to blame you, but to finally set you free. You'll see how you've been the alchemist all along, turning every betrayal, every ending, every buried emotion into the raw material of your own rebirth. And if you've made it this far into the video, Scorpio, then I already know something about you. You're ready. Maybe not in the way that feels certain, maybe not in the way that feels confident, but in the way that matters. You're here. You're listening. You're beginning to remember what your soul has always known, and I promise you, this is only the beginning. In part 2, we'll talk about how the sign will reveal itself differently depending on your Scorpio birth window and what it will ask of you emotionally, spiritually, and energetically when it arrives, because this isn't just about receiving clarity, it's about what you're going to do with it. So don't go anywhere. You're not just watching a video, you're answering a call, and it's time. Scorpio, let me tell you this, before you ask the question out loud, no. The sign will not feel like a miracle when it first arrives. It will not come wrapped in softness, or speak to you with a voice dipped in sugar. It will not feel like relief. In fact, it may feel like the beginning of another unraveling, like something breaking open that you've spent years trying to hold together with invisible thread, because this isn't a reward, it's a reckoning. A mirror. The truth is, this sign is not coming to soothe your ego or validate your old beliefs. It's coming to show you what has been quietly shaping your life from behind the curtain, the unconscious patterns you've been repeating, the self-protective lies you've been telling, the relationships you've clung to even when they were already dying, the betrayal you keep recreating with different faces because you've never stopped expecting it. This sign will surface everything you thought you had buried, not to punish you, but to liberate you from the prison of repetition. And that kind of freedom never feels gentle at first. You see, Scorpio, when you've spent years navigating life through a lens of survival, disruption can feel like danger. Even when it's exactly what you need, this sign won't knock politely. It might show up as a loss that leaves you stunned, a conversation that cuts deeper than expected, a situation that forces you to admit what you've known all along but couldn't bring yourself to face. It might come in the form of a person, someone whose presence disrupts your entire internal structure, someone who sees through your armor and refuses to look away. Or it might be an ultimatum, a decision that demands you choose between the old you and the version you're terrified to become. It will not look like clarity at first. It will look like chaos. And in that chaos, your deepest instincts will tell you to run, to resist, to protect. But if you pause long enough, just long enough to feel instead of react, you will begin to see the outline of something sacred beneath the disruption. You'll realize that what is collapsing is not your life, but the illusion that was keeping you trapped inside it. I know you don't want more pain. I know you've had enough of that, but Scorpio, this is a different kind of pain, the pain of awakening. And unlike the pain of betrayal or loss, this pain doesn't leave you empty. It empties you so that something new can be born. What's coming will expose the ways you've used your own power against yourself, the way you've sabotaged love because you didn't believe you could be held, the way you've rejected peace because it felt unfamiliar, the way you've stayed small because expansion felt like too much responsibility. These truths will sting, but they will also set you free. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. That's the real shift. Not the arrival of the sign itself, but what it reveals, the soft, almost unbearable truth that you were never broken. You were just protecting yourself from remembering how powerful you actually are. Scorpio. In part 3, we'll talk about exactly how this disruption will show up depending on your birth date and how to move through it without losing yourself in the process. Because it's not enough to receive the sign, you must know how to stand inside it without running back to the life that made you forget who you are. So stay with me. The sign will not arrive gently, but it will arrive with purpose. And it will change everything. Now listen closely. Scorpio, because what I'm about to say may shift the way you understand everything that's happened up to this point. This sign that's coming, the one we've been speaking of, will not look the same for every Scorpio. The universe is not careless. It is precise. And depending on when you were born, your signal will be tailored to touch the exact place inside you where transformation has been waiting, perhaps for years. For those of you born between October 23rd and November 2nd, your sign will arrive in the form of a person, but not just anyone. This is someone who will act like a spiritual mirror. They might enter quietly or reemerge unexpectedly, but their presence will strike something deep in you because through their words, their energy, their gaze, even, you will see yourself more clearly than you ever have before. Not the version you perform, not the mask you've grown comfortable wearing, but the raw, unfiltered truth of your emotional landscape. You may resist at first. You may question why this person unsettles you or pulls things out of you you didn't plan to share. But that discomfort is the doorway. This soul has come to show you the parts of yourself you've tried to keep hidden, and what you choose to do with that reflection will shape everything that comes next. If you were born between November 3rd and November 12th, your sign will not be a person, but a situation. Something will unfold and it will feel like life is cornering you. Not out of cruelty, but because you've been avoiding a fear that's been dictating your choices for far too long. This fear is old, possibly ancestral, woven into the fabric of your nervous system. It has told you to stay quiet when you wanted to speak, to retreat when you longed to reach out, to control instead of trust. The event may seem random, a job loss, a confrontation, a moment of exposure, but it won't be. It will be the universe's way of saying this stops here. And in the raw silence that follows, you'll see it. The fear that's been sitting behind the wheel, and you will be given a choice: let it continue driving, or finally take the keys back. And if your birthday falls between November 13th and November 21st, your sign will appear as an opportunity. But let me be very honest with you, it won't feel like one, not at first. It may come disguised as something intimidating, something that asks you to step far outside your comfort zone, something that stirs the deepest parts of your resistance. You'll be tempted to say, "This is too much," or "This can't be for me." But if you pause, really pause, you'll feel something else underneath that fear. A sense of familiarity, a whisper you've heard before in your dreams. Your longings, the parts of you that never quite gave up. This opportunity is not just a next step. It's a doorway into the life you've secretly believed existed but never felt worthy enough to claim until now. Scorpio, I want you to understand something very clearly. The universe is not guessing. Every pain you've carried, every person who has come and gone, every detour, delay, and heartbreak, none of it was random. You've been following a pattern that your soul agreed to long before this lifetime. And now, before this month ends, the design will reveal itself, the pattern will click into place, and what once felt like chaos will begin to look like choreography. Now that you've seen the pattern, Scorpio, it's time we speak about something deeper, the meaning behind all of it, not the surface-level explanations others may have given you, not the labels, not the psychological theories. I'm talking about the soul-level truth that rarely gets said out loud. You were never meant to be ordinary. You were not born to float along the surface, to chase approval, to fit into lives built on shallow safety and predictable comfort. You came here for depth, for rebirth, for the kind of transformation that cracks a life wide open and rebuilds it from the bones. That's why your path has never looked like anyone else's. That's why ease has often escaped you, why peace always felt conditional, and why the moments that shaped you most were the ones that nearly undid you. But hear this, you are not a victim of your intensity. You are the master of it. You've just been taught to fear your own power, to see your depth as a problem, to treat your emotional truth like something that needs to be hidden, softened, or denit, and yet, every time you've tried to make yourself smaller, more palatable, more manageable for the world around you, life has pulled you back into the fire. Not as punishment, but as preparation. Every betrayal you've endured, every ending that hollowed you out, every time you stood in the ashes of a life that no longer made sense, these were not setbacks. They were initiations. Each one was a doorway, a portal to a version of yourself that could only be born through the letting go of what no longer served you. This is the part that no one talks about, that your suffering was not random. It was sculpting you. Your heartbreak wasn't meant to break you. It was meant to break what was false, what was no longer aligned, what was never truly you. Scorpio, you've been through so many cycles of death and rebirth that you've lost count. But this moment you're in now, this is not just another cycle. This is a threshold. The final gate, the one you cross, not just to survive again, but to become the version of you that is no longer trying to heal into something acceptable, the version of you that is no longer asking for permission to take up space, the version of you that knows I was born to rise. I know the weight you've carried, the guilt, the shame, the belief that maybe you did something wrong to deserve the chaos, but I want to say it clearly, you did not do anything wrong. The intensity of your life is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of your mission. You are an alchemist, a soul who transmutes darkness into light. And the reason the darkness has visited you so often is because you're one of the few who can hold it without being consumed. The universe has not been punishing you, Scorpio. It has been preparing you for something greater than anything your conscious mind has ever imagined. And the sign that is arriving before this month ends will make that truth unmistakable. It will not come to explain your past away. It will come to reveal your future, the real one. The one that begins the moment you stop surviving your pain and start living your power. Scorpio, we need to talk about something that rarely gets said out loud, the way you use your gifts against yourself. Yes, you have power, but that power has never just been about intensity, or presence, or emotional depth. It goes further than that. You have a piercing ability to see beneath the surface, to recognize patterns, energy shifts, hidden intenciones, unspoken fears. You notice what others are trying to suppress. You feel what others refuse to feel. And when directed outward, that insight is remarkable. You can read a room in seconds, see the cracks in someone's mask, understand what's being said, even when it's wrapped in silence. But here's the thing, no one warns you about when that same insight turns inward. Untrained, unguarded, it becomes a blade. And you've been bleeding from that blade for years? You use your X-ray vision to scan yourself for flaws, failures, contradictions. You judge yourself not with compassion, but with precision, as if every perceived weakness is evidence that you're not yet enough. And because you can see so deeply, you don't just notice the surface imperfections, you go looking for the root. You dig through your own soul with the same sharp tools you use on others, and instead of healing, you punish, you replay conversations, second-guess décisions. Analyze your own reactions until they're stripped of feeling. You hold yourself to impossible standards. You demand transformation before safety. And when you finally begin to build something beautiful, a relationship, a dream, a new version of yourself, part of you whispers, "This can't last. I'll ruin it. I always do." And without realizing it, you begin the process of destruction before the light has a chance to take root. This, Scorpio, is not your destiny. This is your fear, masquerading as mastery. Your power was never meant to be used as a weapon against your own becoming. You weren't given this depth so you could drown in it. You weren't designed to stay in a constant loop of breakdown and rebirth with no integration. Your cycle of transformation has meaning, but only if you allow yourself to step out of survival long enough to become what you fought so hard to create. And that is where the sign comes in. Before the end of this month, you will be presented with a moment of unmistakable clarity. A crossroads. It may arrive in the form of a conversation, a choice, an invitation, or a breakdown, but you will feel it. Not just mentally, not as a passing insight, but in your body, in your chest, in your gut, in your breath. It will feel like recognition and confrontation and liberation all at once. And when it comes, you will stand before two paths. One of them will be deeply familiar. It will whisper safety, predictability, emotional habits you've worn like old clothes. It will feel like control, like certainty, like the part of you that knows exactly how to survive. But if you listen closely, beneath that comfort, you'll hear the old script playing again. The one that says, keep your walls up. Don't trust this. Don't hope too much. Don't soften. It's the voice that has kept you alive, but also kept you small. The other path will feel like risk. It won't come with guarantees. It may ask you to speak the truth before you feel ready, to forgive someone who hasn't apologized, to take the leap without seeing the net. It may ask you to love in a way you've never let yourself before, not from emptiness, not from performance, but from wholeness. It will terrify you, not because it's dangerous, but because it's real. And real is something you've only ever allowed yourself in fragments. This is the choice that makes the difference. To stay where you've been constantly surviving crisis, endlessly analyzing your wounds, holding your breath while life passes you by, or to step forward into something unknown, something gentle, something stable and light, even if your nervous system doesn't yet know how to receive it. Here's the truth. Scorpio, and I say this with so much tenderness, choosing happiness will scare you more than continuing to suffer. Because you know how to survive suffering. You've made a home inside the fire. You've learned how to find meaning in the ashes. You've built identities from pain, rewritten stories from endings, grown gardens in places no one thought anything could bloom. You are resilient in a way that most people will never understand. But resilience isn't the same as freedom. And healing doesn't mean learning how to stay strong in the storm. It means learning how to allow peace when the storm is over. You've never known what it means to truly rest, to be safe, to be seen in your softness without being destroyed, to have something good and not look for the hidden poison, to feel loved and not prepare for abandonment. And that's why this sign, this moment will feel like so much more than a choice. It will feel like a death. A death of the self that believed suffering was necessary. That survival was identity. That pain was purpose. But beyond that death, there is life. A new one where you don't have to earn love through loyalty that breaks your spirit. One where you don't have to prove your worth by bleeding for someone who never learned how to hold you. One where you don't have to keep destroying what you build just to stay in a loop that feels familiar. You're not meant to keep rising from the ashes. You're meant to rise once and stay risen. The sign will show you that it's safe to want more. That peace is not something you have to pay for. That joy does not need to be preceded by collapse. And when that clarity lands in your cells, in your breath, in the quiet voice of your higher self, you will know what to do. But even then, fear will try to speak louder. It will remind you of what happened last time. It will tell you not to trust the calm. It will say, don't relax, don't open, don't believe. And that's when you have to speak louder. You'll have to say, I'm not that person anymore. You'll have to say, my power is not for self-destruction. It's for creation. You'll have to say, this is my life now, and I choose to live it. Because Scorpio, you are not here to walk in circles. You are not here to keep collapsing just to prove you know how to rebuild. You're here to grow roots, to create beauty, to hold space for the next version of the world, not just the next version of you. And when that choice stands in front of you, the old life or the new one, I want you to remember this. Pain may be familiar, but joy is your birthright. You've suffered long enough. The universe has seen your scars. It has heard your silent prayers. And now it's offering something more, not because you begged for it, but because you finally became ready to receive it. So take a breath, close your eyes, and when the sign arrives, don't reach for your past. Reach for your becoming. You are not here to repeat. You are here to rise.